Sometimes the exposure is separation. Let me explain. So, avoidance in the context of what we were talking about before is like the idea of I see something that I fear and I avoid it, right? So that's not what I'm talking about. Oftentimes when we talk about like set boundaries and everything else, like you need some boundaries, da, 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 it's actually encouraging people to avoid. So that's not what I mean. What I mean is separation. There are things that you're trying to coach yourself into believing, exposures that you want to try, but this person told you not to. This person said that you can't. You've been in these spaces or whatever the case, and it limits your ability to even see yourself in a certain kind of way. Remember, I told you, I say it 1,000 times over, your words trigger thoughts, so thoughts trigger emotions, and those emotions trigger actions. And sometimes it's not just your words, it's words of the people around you, it's the words that you see, it's the words that you've been hearing, reading, listening to, all those things. You got to protect all of that while you're trying to go on this journey of blind obedience. Like all of that has to be a part of that. And when you're considering things like trauma you've experienced, when you're considering things like generational implications of just where you are, when you consider like social settings and everything else, if sometimes the reason why you can't grow and turn into the giant is because the places that you're at have benefited from you being able to shrink. You see what I'm saying? So when you consider what an exposure truly might be, some of it is separation. What if you don't call them for a week? What if you don't go to that hangout or go to that kickback? What if you don't go and call them and tell them about your week or whatever the case? Or you don't tell anybody else about the things that you have going on besides the people who have fruit or evidence that they're where you want to go. That's a whole other conversation in itself. But when you consider things like that, the real true exposure sometimes is separation, realizing that you can do this alone, that you didn't need that space in the first place, that you didn't have to go into that kind of like turmoil in the first place, that you can be okay if they don't want to talk to you or be around you anymore. You can be okay if they're not validating your experience. You don't need them to validate your experience. That's an exposure. You can be all that you are without them. Because as we talked about before, oftentimes you're retraining your nervous system that I can, and oftentimes community means safety. And that transition into new community is hard. That transition into new spaces is hard. That transition into reframing your identity for yourself. Because sometimes that's what we associate ourselves with, who we are around. That's how we identify. That's how we know that we've made it. That's how we know that we're safe. All of that stuff is hard. But sometimes that is the only exposure you need. It's not momentum. It's not connections. It's not even what you're saying. It's the place that you're at. And yes, you can bloom where you're planted. And yes, you can go where you are. But you got to understand and be fully aware of how much of the influence of your space is impeding your ability to show up the way you need to. And what are you doing to combat that? It might even be down to you might have to rebuke what people saying about you when they try to say it. Now, I don't believe that confession. I say it all the time. With the emphasis of I have to protect what I'm trying to do. The plant that I am trying to water is too important, too precious to just get any type of liquid poured into it, any type of word spoken over it. There's something that I need to be in a space or an environment that can allow it to flourish and grow. And when we're thinking about what it means to be obedient, think about what it means to like step into this other version of ourselves, how much of our spaces are reflecting that effort. It might be a new community you need to be a part of. It might be a new Bible study you need to go to. It might even be a new therapist you need to go to. It might be a new coach that you need to see. If they're not speaking for where you're trying to go and there's no evidence to speak thereof, their own fruit to help you understand that they know what you're talking about and what you need, then they don't need to speak on it and you don't need to receive it. So sometimes the exposure is separation. And as difficult as that might sound and feel, that might be the thing holding you back.